We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy. What is up? What is going on? Episode 399 of The Past is here. I'm going to be honest with you. I do not have anything thrilling or in store for 400. So I'm going to save you the suspense. I'd love to get a guest. If someone wants to hop in and do a show, I'm not going to say no. So I'm giving you that early heads up. So if anybody's like, well, what you got planned for 400? The thing that's ironic is episode 400 is literally the day before the Super Bowl. And I'll be 100% honest. I'm on autopilot a little bit this year with the Super Bowl. The title probably gives it away. But, I'm just kind of not too, I think a lot of other stuff has been going on and I'm just not like as pulled in by and don't get me wrong, like doing 400 or counting 400 episodes is definitely a big deal. So I don't want to downplay or disregard the experience or the achievement. I'm definitely going to talk about a lot, especially with looking at like the evolution of the show, where it all started. We'll talk about all that when we get to it, but nonetheless, it's $3.99. Phone is bricked, and my new phrase, bricked and bagged. So any of you who know me knows, if you look at the link in the show notes, I am sponsored by Bagby. I have a affiliate link with Bagby. So if you want to purchase any products from them, use that link, and you'll be eligible for a discount, which never anything wrong with that. Also, for your fidgeting needs on a roller, check that out as well. And the other company, I haven't put this in the link. I'm gonna check, see if they have any promo codes. I would love to get one with Brick, getbrick.app. Probably the best thing that I found, because what it's done is taught me how to unplug on a different level, even to the point where I've literally bricked my phone. And I've seen so many videos that explain this. They'll give so many simple productivity concepts. For instance, they may say, if you want to stop using your phone, put it in a different room and work. And a lot of times you're like, well, that's a lot. And it's like, no, it's not. But with this, it takes it to another level, because what you can do is you can tap so it's almost like, and I think I've talked about it already before on one of my earlier shows. It's literally equivalent to like a tap to pay type of accessory. And once you tap the back of your phone against the brick and it's set, I can leave this accessory at home, go do whatever I need to do, not be as attached to social media, not as attached to so many other platforms I don't need, and use my phone for what I need to use it for. So I'm always listening to music. I'm always going to do my workout stuff. I'm going to check my bank info. If anything, the only social that I'm usually using is Line for a lot of my friends I communicate with, and Messenger, because I'm typically checking that. I really don't, I'm on Instagram, but I can go without Instagram for that time period. And it literally has forced me to be intentional. I've had days where my phone has been bricked for upwards of 10 hours. And even for me, I'm like, dang, that was me. I did that. And it's like, yeah, like it shows you and it gives you the clarity that it's possible to do. So it's just little things like that you learn and not take for granted. So that is that on that. Yeah, the episodes have been flying. Like I said, we've done over 400 shows total, but as far as the episodes being numerically counted, this is episode 399. So spent almost 4 minutes, a little over 4 minutes, kind of rambling. So let's get into some topics. Quite a bit, as I always say, quite a bit to discuss, and hopefully you walk away with some helpful information. That's usually my goal. So we'll see what I'm able to do with that. So our first topic is going to be about a new feature that will be coming to the next iOS update. Now, this will be iOS based. I'm going to assume that this will be something you'll see if you do visually look at the podcast app itself. But they're now bringing up transcripts for podcasts. So if you have a podcast on Apple Podcasts, you will be able to see, as I'm talking, you'll be able to read like the words themselves, based on it being transcribed for that from the initial source of the podcast. So my podcast, as many of you know, is on Buzzsprout, and I use they are connected to Apple Podcasts, so it includes all of the features. So you'll be able to see, if you go back and look at any of the older episodes, it will be fully transcribed. So to kind of give an idea of this, Apple embeds accessibility into every aspect of our work, and we are committed to designing the best products and services for everyone. This spring, Apple is introducing transcripts on Apple Podcasts, making it easier for anyone to access podcasts. With transcripts, your audience can read the full text of an episode, search the episode for a specific word or phrase, and tap the text to play from that point in the episode. As an episode plays, each word is highlighted, making it easy to follow along. Transcripts can also be accessed from the episode's details page. Touch and hold a podcast episode to reveal an option to view a transcript. Apple automatically generates transcripts after a new episode is published. Your episode will be available for listening right away, and the transcript will be available shortly afterwards. There will be a short delay while we process your transcript. If portions of your episode change with dynamically inserted audio, Apple Podcasts will not display the segments of the audio that have been changed since the original transcription. Music lyrics are also not displayed in the transcripts. Transcripts are available with iOS 17.4 for podcasts in English, French, German, and Spanish, with the back catalog episodes being added over time. Transcripts can be accessed in over 170 countries and regions. And they kind of go over the settings on how to set this up. You can, and this will be under Apple Podcast Connect. So if any of you who are unaware, if you start a podcast, because everyone, as nice as I want to say it, everyone is always pushing to say, I want my podcast to be on Apple Podcasts. And I'm like, that's fine. But you want to make sure you get on all platforms. But with Apple Podcasts, you have to submit a request to them to get your podcast to be uploaded. Now, this is not always the case, because in some instances, the platform that you're using to upload your podcast will give you the option to add your podcast to their space. So for instance, with Anchor, I believe you would get added through each layer. Like, I think they would have it where it would be available on Spotify right away. And then after a few episodes, it eventually goes to Apple Podcasts, then Google, and then the mainstream line of podcast platforms. With Buzzsprout, they do all your integration for your main platforms. There are some platforms or some sites that you may have to request that information for. But all that being said, getting the transcripts feature, I think, is going to be a big deal for a lot of people who want to read as they're listening to a show, or it might be something that was said and they want to write down what may have been said to get the information. That'll be a useful tool. And most importantly, this will also help podcasters learn to not be as under detail oriented. And what I mean by that is you can give information, but if it's something that somebody really may need to gather or write down from what you're saying, they'll be able to get it in a much more clear aspect with this feature. At least that's how I'm gathering. I could be 100% wrong, but that's my initial interpretation of it. So looking forward to that. Again, that will be on the next iOS update. If you are a beta user, I believe you already have access to this feature, so you'll be able to see it. Like for the beta users, I think I told people this before, I think I stopped doing beta runs over a year ago, only because I personally didn't find any benefit to doing it. I'm not saying that they're not good to do, because you can get ahead of the curve and also be a tester to bring to Apple's attention any issues, kinks, concerns, flaws, whatever that may not have been put out there yet, that Apple may need brought to their attention for those updates. But all that being the case, this update and this feature I think will be big. I give it time. I think each platform is going to slowly grasp this concept. I think if anything, because if no one really knows this or really realizes it. But there was one point when you would listen to a podcast and people would put links and all this information, and the links weren't even accessible on another platform. You had to have certain platforms in order to access links. Now links are like the golden dialogue for a podcast, which, by the way, and this is a tech tip, if you are doing this, I'm not judging anybody for it because everyone has to do what they do. Try as best as you can to have your links be more direct based and not third party based. Case in point, if you're using like Flowscope, Flowcode, Linktree, any of those links that give you like an option to view all of your links, it's better to just have them on whatever your main page is, and then they can go to the external links on that page. Because then that way your traffic is going where it needs to go, not through another party. And then the person might go to that Linktree and might not click on anything. I've seen it happen, and I've been wanting to do it myself. So just something to think about. Again, I'm gonna try to keep this one a little short because I know usually I'm always wordy. So I've been given some feedback about that, and I'm definitely wanting to work better on that. So our next topic, it's been a couple months and still seeing people give some attempts or efforts to Journal app. It is still going strong, still being a thing. And I don't know. I guess I'm still trying to I'm personally still trying to get my concept around using it, but then I'm also not its target audience, in my opinion. The thing, and I've been on record for saying this, and a lot of my friends didn't understand why I wasn't as excited about it, but then when the app was released, they realized why. The app is only accessible from the phone. They haven't integrated it over to iPad. They haven't integrated it over to Windows yet. I mean, not Windows. They haven't integrated it over to desktop as like a standalone app. Until those features become a thing, we gotta let it go through its testing. We gotta let it run its trial run, let it get figured out, things of that nature. So until then, it's just kind of a piece by piece process with that particular app, in my opinion. But I think the app has potential. I'm not going to deny or downplay that whatsoever. I think I'm just kind of on the fence of, I'm not wowed by it yet because I'm not, personally, plain and simple, I'm not going to connect the keyboard to my phone to do that type of functionality. And that's just my take on it. So that's kind of my perspective of my dialogue. Uh-huh. Hello. Okay, that was just like an interesting live and just happened thing, but y'all know I'm always for editing and modifications because I'm gonna let y'all get the real. One of the kids walked up to the door. I think so they had the other room reserved, but he just kind of walked up, and I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I was trying to hit pause, but I didn't hit pause. So y'all, if you know, you know. Planning deep dive. So if you have or have not heard, last week I was invited to an event and participated in an event with my friend Special for her first execution board planning party in person, and it was a success. It was definitely a success. I kind of gave like a on the fly. I gave like an on the fly. I just got home, deep dive, unpack before I take a flight in the morning discussion about it last week. And it's interesting because I use that as a podcast filler or like a weekly episode, but I was like, hey, I can record this, find some time to edit, which ironically I think I ended up editing that Sunday. And yeah. But it was a good event. I did get my vision board done. I'm going to be getting that from my friend JL, who I talked about last week on the show. I got to meet JL in person. That was like probably my vibe. Like it was funny because Special had a running joke with myself and with JL as far as like, you know, Brian, you only coming because you know JL gonna be here. You ain't coming to see me. I was like, no, I'm coming to see you. I'm coming to hang out. I'm coming to check out the A, see what it's about. Like ironically, I'm thinking, you know, personally excited about possibly making a trip back. I'm planning to go back in March. It did give me some ideas and thoughts on getting a better option for luggage carrying. I will admit that. Since I have this accessory now, I'm beginning to become a bigger fan of drinking more water. And I've had mugs before, but for whatever reason, this one is like, it's like a latch. And I'm going to talk about that near the end of the show. I don't want to talk about it now, but I definitely do want to invest in making sure that I keep some source of like staying hydrated available, because that's going to be helpful big time. So just being more aware of that more than anything else. But it was definitely was able to help her with doing the newsletter, making sure that went out good. Helped her with some content as well, and we were able to chop it up about some things. I knew we were going to interact, but I also knew she was going to be busy because her mindset was like, look, I'm trying to get this all finalized, because before you blink, it'll be time. It'll be like, all right, it's game time. Let's do it. I talked about it already. I didn't take advantage of opportunities to participate in activities that I wanted to. That was more on me. I did get to check out a place that was like a bit of a pool hall, bar and grill, kickback type of vibe. They had like darts. I was there, but I just kind of went in, got a few drinks, and kind of went on my way. Didn't really know, like I knew the area, but I didn't know the area. And also it was like, I didn't want to be out too late, because the main thing I was thinking about was I got to be up by this time, and I need to make sure I get downstairs, checked out, nothing left behind, all is right in the world type ordeal. And I did, like, all of that was taken care of. I didn't get to talk about this last week because it all happened after that recording. But my flight back was a little interesting, and I'm gonna share this story, and I'm not gonna prolong it, but I'll share it because it was like, of all people, why me? But it teaches you to do things the right way, and you won't have to do them the wrong way twice, or do them the wrong way once and then do it the right way. I went through the airport, and this is my flight back was a straight shot. It was from Atlanta back to Richmond. So, of course, as you all know, if you're doing a flight, you got to do the TSA two-step. Totally understandable, totally fine. So I do get a TSA. I take out my iPad. I take out my laptop. I did not take out my external monitor, which I don't know why I didn't, because it would have made more sense to do. And they run my bag through. They see a concern. They're like, well, this is showing this. Do you have this? They saw my planner, my little planner bag, which shout out to Rickshaw Bags. Inside of it, I have nothing but ink pens, a notebook, a planner, my Kindle. All of those things are in there. Now, I didn't think about it at the time. I'm always curious if the Kindle could be like a sparking factor with TSA. I'm not sure, but I always think about that too. So he about to open this door again. Yeah. But all that being said, I went through the whole rigmarole with that, and it was kind of like, wow, like, all right, I'm trying to get everything together, and sure enough, I sit there and I'm looking through all my stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got everything, and I'm like, where's my ID? Where's my license? I'm in Atlanta. I don't have a license. Luckily, I don't have a connection flight. I'm good once I done got through the main port where I needed it, but it was just like, I'm asking the lady, I was like, where is it? She's like, well, it's in all your stuff. And I'm like, it's not, but okay. So I'm digging, checking, but didn't check like I needed to. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So I get on the flight, and mind you, the flight is a straight shot back to Richmond. So while I'm on the flight, I think I was probably about maybe 20 minutes away on the flight. And I went ahead, since I was online, since I had access to Wi-Fi, I was like, I'll go ahead and do a request for lost and found. So I do the lost and found request. Soon as I land in Richmond, like, I gotta wait to get my bag. Which reminds me, I'm gonna talk about rideshare in a minute too. That was also rideshares at hotel. I mean, not at a hotel. Rideshares at airports are interesting because you really gotta like read to know where they are before you just stand somewhere and tell them to meet you at this place and you're not there. Because like when we went to Austin, I went through the same thing. Like when everybody was like had met up, they were like, "Oh, we all got our stuff." They were like, "Okay, we're here, but you got to go over here to like get to where rideshare is." And I was like, "Oh," and it was the same way. Rewinding back before I continue, story's a little mixed. So let me stick with this story, and then I'll talk about rideshare because I'll get mixed up as I'm talking about it. But took the got my bags. Oh yeah, I had one bag. Got my bag. The guy, like someone from the Lost and Found with TSA called me back just to kind of do a follow up, just checking like, okay, we just wanted to confirm you had put in this request XYZ, and I was like, yeah, I did. They said, okay, we'll do a little bit more research and we'll check on it and we'll get back to you. So they sent me like an email confirming it. I didn't see the email until I got home, but before that, like I called for a Lyft, I think a Lyft or Uber. Didn't realize that like they have like Richmond has like a rideshare location now. And I know it's like when you leave out of the airport, you go to where it's like a set of green bars. You just go there and wait, and then they'll get you. So eventually I was at the right place, met the guy. We got in the car. We were talking about sports. He's a Washington fan. Ironically, at the time they didn't have a new coach. I think now they have their coach. And I was talking about Carolina, so we were kind of having that venting, ranting session about football, which was always fun. And then fast forward, that sound is gonna be tough to get out of this audio, but we'll figure it out somehow. And I say this like y'all can't hear it, and you probably will hear it, but it's like I can hear it, and I'm like, I gotta clean this. This is not gonna be well. But he takes me to my house, drops me off, get in, bring my stuff in, get settled for a second. And I was like, all right, well, let me get my laptop out and continue this whole process for the TSA Lost and Found. I get the sleeve for my laptop out of from my bag. And as soon as I as soon as I get that, literally the ID was sitting in the laptop sleeve. And I was just like, that was probably the most 2% not expected option. But I was glad I had it, because in my head on the way back, I'm like, I got to get a real ID. I got to do all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not in a position for that. By the way, random fact, if you do or do not know, by May of next year, if you're in Virginia, you have to have a real ID. Pretty much, I'm just telling you by May. I'm not even going to give you, ain't no need you going online, looking up research, all that. Just by May, I would, like April, like March and April, I would start getting the process rolling to get that prepared. So that way you have it and not have to deal with any legality stuff or whatever. So had that going on. And then I was like, all right, cool. I got my ID. Everything's good. But yeah, back to the rideshare thing. So going to Atlanta, I took a connection flight, went to Charlotte. Charlotte, I got the most walking I ever did in my life. I'm still thinking about the airport. I've accepted the fact that I thought Atlanta was I thought it was a pretty big airport, but then I realized how big of an airport it is when you have like your own train or tram station set up, whatever. And when I got to Atlanta, it was like I got there, and then it's like you got to go like another distance to get to where rideshare is. So I didn't even realize that, because I'm just standing at the gate where you would normally like, okay, this is where, if I had known someone in Atlanta to pick me up, they could have just picked me up from where I was and it would have been fine. And I'm not saying, let me backtrack. If I had made my friend aware that I was where I was, then I would have been fine. But I ended up doing the ride shares, which are your Uber, Lyft, other options. And when I realized like where I needed to be to get to the rides, and then I'm walking this long, like I saw like these orange signs just leading towards where rideshare was. And I was like, you gotta be serious. So luckily this guy happened to see me, he was at like the early part of this and was like, hey, you need a ride? Like, you need me to take you or whatever? And I was like, yeah. This man, he literally charged me like double the cost of what I needed. But then it was also the convenience. I think it was the convenience factor. And I mean, the good part, he was able to get me to where I needed to be. I was there, I was settled, everything was cool. So I was fine on that end. But yeah, like I said, I talked about it a little bit last week. I do feel bad that I missed the OTE, because I really wanted to check that event out and see what that was about. But I did get my board done. I'm going to, and I don't think I shared it on the last show, but I'll share it now. I am going to use that board as a way to do a digital version of my board, because I want to make one to have with me personally, because it's just a personal preference that I've found to work. So we'll be working on that very soon, and that'll be pretty helpful. Fab Five. And if you are new to the show or have not heard me talk about this before, we do our Fab Five of like the main 5 things that are going on with us as people. Where are you at mentally, personally, professionally, creatively, and what is a one-word feeling that you have for the day? And let's see, what do I have for the day? It's a great question, because when Brian's mood is mooding, it moods with no shame. So mentally, I will say that I am at a 7.4. Professionally, about an 8. Personally, we're at a... Personally, let me backtrack. I'm saying mine for right now, but I need to look at it for the month of January. I think those are all still active or accurate. Personally, looking at about I'd say an 8. Creative, about a 5. And my feeling for the month was determined. I definitely was determined to get through. And I mean, obviously with the theme being discipline, The discipline was real, and it definitely stood out where it needed to the most in making that my theme for the year. And I think I've shared this already. The theme for February is focus, the month of focus. So working through that. And as I'm being reminded and remembering to do, it's beneficial to set a theme for the month, set a theme for the week, and obviously setting a theme for the year. And I'm still looking at and pushing through getting 12-week year read as I'm still reading Level Up, so I haven't forgotten that either. So just working through those pieces and elements through my natural day-to-day. It felt good this week to do some workouts. Been working out. Definitely been battling not working out, but now I'm like, Brian, you got to work out. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your mindset. You got to make this all come together, because if you don't, it's not going to go well. And you can sometimes feel the aftermath of it when you don't do something that you know you need to do. And that's what I'm being reminded lately. So been just taking care of that, working out a lot more frequently, a lot more consistently outside of just my regular once a week workout in person, also doing my workouts at home as well as my walks. I didn't do them yesterday. Just had a lot going on and trying to get some stuff done with work. So we getting there. We're slowly but surely coming back to its normalcy of just doing what I need to do and doing the thing. So just sticking with that more than anything else. We're at the title. I could say a lot, but I'm not going to say a lot. And I'm saying I'm not going to say a lot, but y'all know I'm going to talk about this because it's here. Next week, you will probably get my feedback and my talk about the Super Bowl on episode 401. It won't be on 400 because I'll be recording that Saturday, and then Sunday is, of course, Super Bowl. This is going to be, since Kansas City is one of the teams in the Super Bowl, there will be a camera dedicated to showing every single move of Taylor Swift. I am giving this conversation a lot of attention, and I'm not helping the cause in talking about it now. But the thing is, we need to call things for what they are. And the truth of the matter is, right now, she is profiting. She's definitely providing the NFL with a much larger profit than they realize. Sure, she's in love and she's happily involved with Travis Kelce, and I'm not going to deny or disregard that portion of it. But we've gotten more media attention from her than we've gotten from a lot of GMs and owners in football. And that tells a lot. I had this conversation with someone at a bar a couple of days ago, and it's harsh when you have to give the truth to people, but it's even harsher when they don't realize it. We sometimes don't understand. We know media is controlled by the brand of the name, like the media is controlled by the media. Yes and no. My media I'm the voice and the source of the media, but my media source of how you all get it is because of Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout then gets it dispersed to all the different platforms. So the Apples, the Googles, the Spotifys, the iHeartRadio, the Acast, et cetera, Pandora, Apple, Amazon Music. It gets to those platforms because Buzzsprout gave them the green light to get that where it needed to be. And I think sometimes we don't think about those elements because we're just looking at it like, well, I just want to hear it, or I just want it to be what it is. So whoever's showing it, if it's Fox, CBS, NBC, whoever, they're going to show the game, of course. But the NFL has control on who they want to be seen in what facility or in what extreme. Now, it may not be Roger Goodell directly, but someone in his administrative tenure or in his position that can make that call is the one who's getting it so that we see Taylor at the event. Which then, like, it's almost like someone's likely going to have to contact whoever's hosting the Super Bowl to get the cameras to say, hey, can we pan to this? We need this camera here to pan to this person. And how I explain this to the same person at the bar also, which no one really, again, these are things that no one thinks about, but this is literally for face value how it happens. You go to the game. The game will be on TV. The camera's gonna be everywhere showing whatever. No one ever really does this, but if you ever look at the side of cameras, they show you the sponsor and the breakdown of it. Like if you go back and look at when they used to do NBA on NBC, yes, NBC was in the logo, but you also saw NBA. The NBA logo was there, so you're not gonna get both in that visual. It's humanly impossible. Like there's a reason when that person when they had the sideline camera show Rodman kick the guy in the private part, there was a camera set there for those instances of those incidents. Like you have cameras all through the facility because you want to be sure everything is seen, even with it being on tape delay. So the same will apply with Taylor. We're going to see a lot of Taylor Swift next week. It's not a surprise. It's nothing to be shocked by. If fans aren't watching the game, and I want to clear this up too before we go any further. If fans aren't watching the game, they're not watching it because it has less to do with the Taylor Swift, with the Chiefs, and more to do with we don't want to see Taylor Swift 1,000 times. The end. There's nothing else to really go into about that. We should not be making this such a debatable discussion. It's not debatable. It's literally right in front of us. We're seeing it in full form. Like it's not that hard. I don't know how else to put it. But people have been like so adamant. They're like, we're being given, like they're throwing her at our direction like consistently. And I'm like, yeah, and it's causing people to not want to watch it, not tune in. So here's what we get from that. So that's what I have for that. I know, like I said, I was going to try not to go too deep into that tangent, but it was hard not to because it's been a thing that's definitely been a thing to not ignore. So that's where I'm at about that. This will be in my blog tomorrow. It's actually the title of my blog tomorrow. So I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit now. Cal Newport a few weeks ago had a writer, I don't want to call him a social media influencer, content creator, 9-to-5 turned YouTuber, because he's an everyday person. He just utilized the resources on making YouTube work for him. And his name is Ali Abdaal. He recently released a book about productivity that I'm looking forward to reading. And while he was on Cal's show, he brought up a very important message that has stuck with me on every level. And the name of his book is called Feel Good Productivity. It is one of my books that I'm going to read because I have to. It's non-negotiable. I've been putting a lot of books off and I can't do this anymore. And that's just that on that. But he made a statement during his appearance in saying to enjoy the journey or enjoy your journey. And a lot of times I don't think we invest enough time in ourselves to really enjoy the journey because we're too busy consumed by the journey. And it's nothing wrong with the consumption of the journey. We get it. We've all been there. It's a thing. It's not something we want to sit and ignore. However, we sometimes need to take a moment and really realize, like, while we're on the journey, to really enjoy it for what it is and not be so gun-ho on, like, it may or may not work to our quote-unquote liking, but let's still acknowledge and realize, like, we're where we need to be for a reason. So as hard as it is not to embrace it, and challenge the way of being, challenge yourself on not beating yourself up over what did or didn't happen or what was not said or whatever the case may be. A lot of times it can be challenging. was reading some feedback that I got. It was kind of random, but I kind of saw that coming because as soon as I was about to share it, I was like, I forgot it was one important part I needed to add, but I'll add that later on. But yeah, we really don't invest that time in just the enjoyment of what we're doing. We're just like, we've got to do it because it's got to be done and there's no other way to do it. But if we're not savoring the moment we get to do it, because a lot of people would love to be doing a lot of what we're doing. And we don't realize that. Like, a lot of people would love to be parents. A lot of people would love to record podcasts. A lot of people would love to work in engineering. A lot of people would love to be in tech and they're not, and they want to be in it. But you're on the journey and you're like miserable while on the journey. And there are people who are like, hey, if I had your position to be in where you are, be doing what you're doing, it would be handled a lot differently. But teach their own, you know how that goes. It's just kind of a thing that we have to take time to acknowledge. So I'm not going to give a lot of attention to that. Plain and simple, enjoy the journey, but most importantly, enjoy your journey. Never realized as much as I drink water. Now I'm wanting to drink water way more. Might be some things changing, but we'll have to talk about that over time. Planner neglect. The planner has been getting love, but not getting the love the way I want it. As you may or may not know, I did try the legacy planner for a little while. I went back to bullet journaling. Still trying to find like another planner way, style, or something, but making that time has been more on me than anyone else. I'm not saying it's like, oh, woe is me, I'm going through the motions. It's more so just realizing the simplest things to do can help us so in such a big way. 3 goals a day. 3 goals a day is where it starts, and sometimes doing something that small, or making your bed, reading out, coming up with your affirmations, stuff like that. Doing those little things can be such a heaven sent if you don't realize the importance in getting them. And I'm starting to see that more and more as I'm working through this process of mine. So that's kind of been like my pushing point more than anything. Is just like, not as hard as it is not to do it, like really getting it done and not beating myself. And a lot of times I think the challenge without being a challenge is like knowing that you gotta do it, but you can't look at others and be like, oh, woe is me, I'm not getting the help I need. It's like, no, we're all getting the same opportunities. You just have to do what you're supposed to with what you're given, and not make it such a tedious process. So that's what I have for that. Taylor Swift, Drake, and a couple more artists have gotten their music pulled from TikTok. For a long period, I have an article. I'm going to share the article. I'm going to talk about the article a little bit, but I'm not going to go in depth about it. Over a year or so ago, I started to give more effort to doing videos on TikTok. And I've been back and forth about this of like, do I want to do videos? Do I not want to do videos? But there was one time in me doing videos, I was so pressed on making sure I had the right audio, making sure I had the right song in the background, because the song is going to draw the attention. And enter UMG, which, if you don't know about UMG, they're known as Universal Music Group. They're not licensing music for TikTok. And so it's artists such as Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, Drake, BTS. All their music is being removed or have been removed from the TikTok platform on Wednesday. So in other words, if you have videos that are out there that had any of their music, your song is going to show up with no audio. So now you got to go in and like put a song in place of that audio to be able to get the video to play like it needs to. Something else I noticed before I go into this article, I noticed since this happened, any videos that I've uploaded, normally a lot of them will get 200 or 300 views or plays. now the views are starting to come down. I think a lot of people are dwindling a little accordingly on how they use TikTok, and I'm not against it. Like, we don't. This might be me running back into that rabbit hole of why I've become so like distant with social media. Like, I hold on to it, but then I'm like, I don't really like. Even now, like with my phone being bricked, I'm like, okay. Like, true, the story that I saw earlier was on a social media platform that I had talked about briefly, but in theory, I'm just like, okay. It's not like the end of the world. It's nothing to be stressed about. The record label released on their website a music licensing agreement between UMG and TikTok expires on Wednesday, and new terms have yet to be agreed on. The label noted various issues standing in the way of a licensing agreement, including artist and songwriter pay, protecting artists from the effects of artificial intelligence, and TikTok user safety, recalling Hollywood strike concerns brought forth last summer. The label accused the social media platform of attempting to bully us into accepting a deal. The music label, which represents Swift, Drake, and some of music's biggest stars, claims that TikTok offered to pay its artists and songwriters at a rate that is a fraction of the rate that similarly situated major social platforms pay. I'm not going to read all the rest of this because it's already bad enough because most artists don't make a lot of money as it is off of just streams. If an artist is making less than a cent per stream, but these artists are making these same artists are getting like major play and major attention on your bigger platforms, but it's not talked about because they're going to pay them, but they're not. They're also giving them the face time and the attention on them being paid. The ironic part is we're not going to see. I can open TikTok right now and I can guarantee you a Drake or a Taylor Swift video will come up of either of them being displayed. Now, it won't have any music, but it will still be them being seen. So how does the profit part work for that? Another conversation for another day, but wanted to share this because this has become a big deal with a lot of if you're doing videos on TikTok and you notice that a lot of them don't have music, this is why. So I will put this link in the show notes for your reading pleasure at your leisure. I usually don't fall for certain things, but somehow this one might be the best one of all time. So I have been using Ozark. I think it's called Ozark. I think it's like Ozark Trail, something like that. I had a no-name brand. I had Towel. I've even gotten Gatorade. I've used so many different types of water bottles. Contigo. I've used so many different ones over the last 7 or 8 years, probably longer than that. The last couple of years, one big water bottle company, not even water bottle company, one big mug cup company has risen on the scene, and they've been in existence for over 100 years, and that is Stanley. And before anyone gets confused, this company has no affiliation with the Stanley Cup that you win for a championship in hockey. Not even in the same bucket, not even in the same breath. So don't have those get you mixed up or hemmed up in any way, shape, or form. All of that being said, I was at work on Wednesday and I went to work. While I was there, there's a group that I've been supporting called Space-Time Monotasking. I talk about them frequently and often. I will place the link to their content in the show notes. They have a Discord. They do a weekly session for free from 2 p.m. Eastern time to 3 p.m. Eastern time, where it's like a deep focus session. You have other folks who are working on whatever they're working on. And I have found this to be one of the most resourceful tools since I'm not doing some other stuff at work, but we're not going to talk about that right now. And this is more immediate than anything. It's not even on the company. It's more of I need to step up on my efforts and my productivity and performance. So accountability is important with this one. But I bring that story up because before they did the session, they sent out a newsletter. And in the newsletter, they have different articles, different things they're talking about. And the newsletter happened to bring up they said, what's a good podcast or a good show to listen to? And they put in a snippet, or not a snippet, but they talked about the Journal doing a podcast about the Stanley Cup or the Stanley Mug. So I started listening to it, didn't think much of it. I'm on the way home. I was like, I'm gonna just go home and then I'm good. I'm gonna chill. I was not far from a Dick's Sporting Goods, and I knew they had them in stock, but I wasn't sure if I was going to look at getting one, or if I wasn't going to get one, or if I wanted one, or if I wanted to just go home, what I was going to do. So, and personally, I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen the Black Edition before, but I like this one because of one thing that no one else would ever think of, but I personally like it for it. Is the logo is on the mug, but you can't see it unless you're like up close to it. Because it's a real Stanley mug. I'm not gonna like deny it or take anything for granted. But they were just talking about how the trend, the podcast for the Journal talked about how this trend became so big, so fast. And surely enough, I was like I somehow ended up in Dick's Sporting Goods looking at mugs. They had the white one, the black one. This particular one, they didn't have the green. I saw the orange. I almost got the orange. I was tunnel vision on either getting green or blue because they don't have a red one. The red one was when they brought out the limited edition Target model or something like that. There were different options, but I didn't really get pulled into any of those. I ended up going with the all black. And like I said, I like this one just because of the simple fact that the logo is there. It's not like, because normally if you get this particular if you get this version of it, it's usually black and it has like the white, or not white, but gray lettering of the bear as well as the Stanley logo. I have used this mug for, we'll say, 3 or 4 days. I have drank out of it every day. It is very, very useful with me. I mean, the other ones I've used, yes, I get my water intake, don't get me wrong, but like even coming in for the podcast, I was like, I think I'm going to take this with me. And it's with me. And I'm like, getting my water intake. Now, I've seen posts, I've seen comments, I've seen conversations about the lead thing or whatever. If you look at the bottom of, like if you empty out the mug and look inside the bottom of it, you can literally take a camera, take a picture of this. It shows an image that states specifically you would only be exposed to this lead that everyone's worried about if you were to take off at the bottom of the mug. There's a actual bear image and there's a metal piece there. If you take that off, that's how the lead exposure happens. I'm going to be 100% honest. Even if I had not known that information, when I got the mug, because guy math or boy math, whatever you want to call it, I literally left the sticker over that area of the mug to begin with. So I didn't even think about it until I was like, oh, why do I still have the label? So I took it off and I'm just looking at that and I'm like, I wouldn't even remotely think to mess with that. There are different articles that share this specific breakdown for anyone who's wondering about it or the concept or the backstory, whatever. It's all there. So don't, instead of creating something that's not a thing, do your due diligence and research and learn, and not just throw something out there as a story that's not a story. Because that was literally what happened when all this went on, and I was like, that is far from what it is. I I think a company of this reputation would know this by now. Like everyone suddenly becomes like historians and professionals with products, and it's like, why are y'all making this more than what it is when it's not even that type of party? But hey, whatever it takes. I am definitely pushing to drink more water. I'm making a bit of a bold decision not tonight, but Monday. Normally, I always, before I go to the gym, I will buy 2 containers of bottles, like 2 bottles of water that are like 50 gallons, something like that. They're pretty big bottles of water. And I usually drink one while I'm at the gym. What I'm going to do Monday, I'm not using my Stanley, so it ain't that type of party. I'll have one, and I'm going to say something else about the mug too that I'm liking, because I've found this is real, in my opinion. But I am going to use the Gatorade mug that I have, because I was using it. I tried to use it for like the Gatorade pods. I don't think I can do the Gatorade pods while working out. Like, it is definitely a lot between the sodium intake, the sugar intake, trying to battle that and still work out. It's like, nah, it ain't it. But I will fill that with ice and with water and try that on Monday. Because like I said, I think I'm becoming more in tune with like just making water a thing where I can. But I do want to say, at least in my personal consumption with the Stanley mug or the Stanley cup, well, 2 things before I say that. I have noticed, and no one's gonna think about this except me. Stanley mugs are meant for left-handed people, and a lot of people are gonna hear me say that, and they're gonna be like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And if anyone knows or understands this ideology, they will understand what I'm about to say. Most mugs, like if you get a traditional mug from like any store, like your basic mug that you would put like coffee in, like a small regular size mug, not a 40 ounce, but just a regular mug. They will always have whatever the message is you're intended to read on the outside. So in this case, the Stanley mug, the logo, if you hold the handle with your left hand, I don't see anything facing me. It's empty, but on the front of it, you see the logo. However, if you're right-handed, they can't see the logo. So that's all to say that they've made these mugs, and a lot of people may not even realize that they're left-handed mugs. But I could be wrong. I'll check some other mugs and just make sure. But I think even when it's displayed in the store, it is shown as it is shown where the handle is on the handle. If the mugs are displayed with the intent of the logo being on the outside. I mean, with the logo where it would be left-handed. They have a Lunar New Year edition. This is insane. The cost, I will admit, is a little bit over the top, but I got over that kind of quick, number one. And number two, it's not a bad trade-off, especially if you're thinking of the fact that you're getting, it's a 40 ounce. You're not getting too many mugs that are at a 40 ounce stature in my personal opinion. So, and it's not me, let me be clear before anybody thinks this, it's not me trying to, I'm justifying the purchase. No, that's far from what it's about. I'm just bringing light to perspective. And ironically, so I just learned something today. So there is, so they have a, gotcha. Okay, so they have the black model that has the actual, that has the Stanley written on it. I purchased, this is such a great way to end this podcast. I purchased the Black 2.0. So the Black 2.0 is the one where you see the logo there, but it's literally blended in like it's a matte, like, because the mug has like its finish itself, and then the logo is like right there where you would have to really notice it like up close and personal to see it. So random minutia. I know for some of y'all like, well, why? Like that's such a deep dive that I would have never thought of. But yeah, that's my I wouldn't say synopsis, but my discussion when it comes to the mug as a whole. Some of these colors are interesting, I will say. It keeps, and I didn't know, I haven't, like, as far as ice, like, I've kept ice in it, but then what ends up happening, so I'll go ahead and talk about this too before I pass the message. It does a good job of keeping items cool, like the water that I have in it now, like, I've been adding water to it, and I've been adding ice where I need to, but it's kept the product, or kept the water pretty cold for quite a while. Like, I put water in it. I put water and ice in it last night. Didn't really drink it, but then got up. And this might help with something I'm working on in the morning. We're gonna figure this out because I do want to get better with like my morning water intake. So I think having this bedside will be something to really give a try. So I'm definitely. I know a lot of y'all are probably like, you talking about this more than the Taylor Swift thing, but I mean, it just kind of pulled my attention because they even break down like the specs where it's like it will stay cold for 11 hours and ice, I guess, can stay as ice for up to 2 days. Like I said, I don't usually, when I put ice in it, I'm usually putting water in right away. So it's not like I'm giving the ice an opportunity to like, hey, let's let ice just sit and see how long it stays as ice. Cause I'm usually going to put water with the ice. So not something I'm really that pressed on, especially if you're adding like a warmer beverage, because the ice is going to then consume it. Anyone who knows the 3 states of matter, we're not going to even waste time going and all that. But yeah, these, like the other containers I've had have kept water pretty cold, but I think this one got it right now. Just my take. I would say the towel gets an honorable mention, but it's nothing. Like, I think this is, and it's not even just the whole steel state of the art. It's none of those things. It's just the product does what the product's supposed to do. And it's not like, before anybody goes into that either, it's not a gimmick. It's not some ploy of like, oh, we're trying to upsell you. No, you're paying for the brand. You're paying for the quality. And they've been in business for quite a while. So it's not like something that they just woke up one night and say, hey, we're going to just throw this mug at people and hope they buy it or hope they use it. It does its job very well. I'll just leave it at that. Pass the message. The message I'm going to pass along today is figure it out. We want all the answers to be handed to us. And an add-on to this that I'm going to say, and it's probably going to piss some people off as to what I'm about to share, is you can watch all the productivity videos in the world. You can watch all the motivational videos in the world. You still got to do the work. You still got to motivate yourself to get whatever it is you need to get done. And the eye-opener behind that is, as people, we know what we're in need of needing. We know what we're in need of having to get done. The bigger picture becomes, are we willing to put the effort behind doing those things and not making the process more complicated than it needs to be? Many times we fight ourselves. We make things become this big conundrum of foolishness that it doesn't have to be. But the reality is, we know what we need to do. We know when we get up what we're trying to get done. We know, as people, we know if we spend 20 minutes scrolling on our phone, those are 20 minutes you can't get back. Or even worse, it's so, talk about full circle. I'm sitting just thinking about some stuff, because around this time was like almost a year, nearly a year, when I went through the process of like going through my career transition. So just thinking about so many people I worked with and them not understanding some things. But one thing that sticks with me is like there was one person who was really trying to like get to that next level, but they could not let their phone go. Like they lived through everyone else's life. And I have one person who, her and I are really close in keeping in touch. I always can check in with her and make sure she's good. But she made a very commendable choice and was like, you know what? I don't need the social media thing for a while. I'm just going to take a break. She didn't make an announcement. She didn't have like woe is me. I'm going through life. There's so much going on. She took a break. She shut it down. She chilled. She got focused. She came back. I got another person that I've known. We know each other from our Yahoo Messenger days. She liked something that I posted, or she viewed something that I posted, or liked a story, or liked a post that I had online. And I literally messaged her and was like, hey sis, love you, thinking about you. That was it. And I know she's been in her grind mode, because when you know people, you understand what they're doing. And the thing why I'm sharing all of this is because when you reach that point of that position of like figuring it out and making sense of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go, everybody ain't gonna understand it. Like, for years, people didn't understand why I was so on my own path of what I was working on. But then when they would see what I was doing or what the end result was, they were like, oh, or what's coming down the line from the discipline or from the transition. It would be like, oh, that's why you've been like not as interactive. And I'm like, yeah, it's a reason. It ain't just, oh, I won't talk to nobody because I ain't want to be bothered. No, it's always a method to someone's madness, but you aren't intended to understand their madness. That's why it's theirs, not yours. And to take that a step further, those who hit that point or hit that side, they figured it out. Now it's time for you to figure it out. Like, bad example, but good point. Love Danco. Danco is one of my favorite content creators. I keep track of his stuff time and time again. But I'm going to speak truth about something. I can't live through what he's doing and think that's going to immediately apply to me and what I'm working on. Like, my routine is my routine, plain and simple. And I can't force myself into seeing that, thinking that that's going to just be the tell all be all. Because it doesn't work like that. Humanly, it doesn't work like that. There's so many layers and so many pieces behind the puzzle. And you have to invest yourself in understanding that if you really want to get to that next level for yourself, not for what others are telling you to do, but for yourself. I know I talked about them and joked about it early. Stanley figured it out. And I didn't talk about it in this video. I mean, I didn't talk about specifically to that T, but Stanley did something that a lot of brands do. And when you do this, you win. Target the audience. And when I say target the audience, I mean, once you can get your product where it's in a woman's hands, it's over. And it's over in the sense that consumers are going to gravitate towards it. Case in point, I'm a big Logitech guy. I love Logitech accessories. Anyone that knows me knows I live, sleep, eat, and breathe Logitech 24/7. Logitech figured it out. Logitech made a black keyboard set, like keyboard and mouse set. They made a blue keyboard and mouse set. They made a white keyboard and mouse set. What was the last one they made? They made a pink keyboard and mouse set. And it ain't even got to be that you buy the keyboard and mouse set. It's just more of, it's available if you look to get one and or the other. When they brought out the pink and or purple Stanley mugs, that's all she wrote. When Apple did the rose gold iPhones, that's all she wrote. They figured it out. And consumers are going to gravitate to the product. Consumers gravitate to the product for Apple now because the big ass Apple logo. Which, by the way, this is also random minutia if you ever may or may not notice. If you want to know and understand the origin of the Apple logo, look at the leaf on the top, or the stem that's on the top of the logo, and put it in that empty space on the Apple itself. And you'll understand why they think different. I hope this helped y'all. I hope this hit somebody and it resonates with someone in some manner. I am BT. This is the past, and we are signing out. Episode 400 is going to be We got a lot to talk about. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll give you a fair warning. Strong chance there will not be any, it won't be as, how can I put this? It won't be as bullet pointed as this one. But I will definitely have some content like structured out, so you're not just feeling like you're trying to read or keep up from the hip. So that's what I got for y'all. I appreciate y'all. Until next time, BT signing out. Peace. Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.